Hi, my name is Bill Rum. I'm an antiques dealer from New Jersey. I'm 44 years old, and I'd like to talk to you about the Great War. Let me tell you something about the Great War, or World War I. There is no Great War. The Great War is fought every day to keep us out of war. Because if you look at the history of human beings, we're savages, especially males. We're savages. We fight. This is what we do. This is how we proceed through time, is making war. So the real Great War is fought every day to keep us out of war. But let me tell you about my very first interaction with World War I. And that would be when I was 15 years old. Next door, I had a neighbor, Eddie Dunn, long since passed from this world, but I'll never forget Eddie because he really introduced me to World War I on a personal basis. He told me that when he was a kid, his father at 5 years old said to him, "We're going to take a ride." And he took him for a ride. And they went to Hoboken, to the docks. And as he told me this story, his face just was alive with color. And I think he was reliving being 5 years old again. And he said his dad put him on his shoulders and held him there. And he just watched as these troops, thousands of troops, disembarked from a ship. And subsequently, he was at a parade for them. And it was one of the most wonderful times of his life. And I was so happy that he shared it with me. So that was the first time that I've had any interaction with World War I. The last vet to die was in 2011. I believe it was Frank Buckles, okay? And he was the last expert on World War I. Hell, I know a lot about World War I, but I can never say I'm an expert because the experts were there. I can only talk to people who had been there, or people who knew people who had been there, and I can do the research, but I can never be there. I can take you there in my stories, but I can never be an expert because the experts are all gone. And that's something you need to know when you do this. Hollywood has never been fair to World War I. You'll find, so many World War II flicks, so many World War II this, Band of Brothers, on and on. I mean, you can think of them all. When you were a kid, you watched them. But World War I kind of, 1, 2 movies, forgotten war, sort of like Korea, very, very similar to Korea. Trench warfare, World War I, okay? Sanitary conditions, fucking horrible. Mud, grime, daily. Sick people, many, trench foot. Why do you think they call it trench foot? There you go. In between the shelling, there was a lot of downtime. And during the downtime, these soldiers had nothing to do. So what they would do is they would take things they had at hand. And here is one of my favorites. I keep this on my desk. It's a piece of trench art. And if you look closely, if you can see that, that is a beautiful eagle. Okay, and on the top it says Argonne Forest. Okay, so what the shell is a French tank shell, which is kind of rare in itself because of its size, et cetera, and tanks. There's not a lot of those. World War I being the first tanks in the field. And some guy took probably a nail or something small like a file, and it took him weeks to make this eagle. And I keep this one close to the heart because it's a piece of history. It's a piece of history from an American soldier who was probably sick, had trench foot, and made this thing. So that stays on my desk up there. I want to talk to you about John Pershing, Blackjack Pershing. Who is he? Who the fuck is John Pershing? I'll tell you who the fuck John Pershing is. He is the commanding general of the Expeditionary Forces, okay? And I want to talk to you about a bad day. You think you have a bad day, you get a flat tire, your wife calls you up and says the car's had an accident, the kids are bad in school, and you had a bad day at work and you got a lot of pressure, and you go, I wish this day would just go away. I'm going to tell you about a day that John Pershing had that he wished till the day he died would go away. About 1915, okay, he gets this telegram, and the telegram says the worst thing that any telegram could possibly say. And you know what that is? It says that your wife Helen, your daughter Mary, your daughter Anne, and your youngest daughter Helen have all died in a fire. They're fucking gone, okay? But yet, we worry about the car. But what's more incredible than the tragedy that Blackjack Pershing succumbed to is the fact that he overcame that shortly after that, And he became one of the greatest generals in the United States history. And you ask me, what do you mean one of the greatest generals in the United States history? I'll tell you, his title was Commanding General of the Armies. Now, I want you to think about this. Very few people have ever held that title in the United States before. George Washington got it. He got it 200 years after his death, posthumously. John J. Pershing was the only living person to be named Commanding General of the Armies. That man was a hero. This is Bill Rum telling you that history is made by you every day, not just what you watch.